I am getting comfortable because we're going to do different kind of vlog this time. I'm going to call it my deep dive series because it's going to be one book per vlog, and we are doing The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. So can't wait to dig into this one. Let me take the cover off first because you have to see the inside of this book is beautiful. Hold on one second. Get rid of that. So we've got the embossed cover, which I think is gorgeous. Okay. And then the artwork inside is phenomenal. But the one that really, kind of gets me the most, sorry, just checking. So, okay, so this is the inside front cover, but it's the inside back cover. I don't know if you can see that, if the light is good enough. Let me see if I can turn it. So it looks like a creepy kind of alien almost in this one. So I was looking at that and thinking, that looks really odd. Yeah. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and we're going to follow this through as I read through it. And I'm going to try and relay it to you as I'm going through it. We got a really fun map with a little ghoul that kind of matches that back picture right in the top corner there. So it's obviously divided into parts, and this is part one. Okay, so part one is Worst Princess Ever. So we're going to get started reading, and I just had the sound clipped on here. So I'm actually going to clip it off, and I'll pick it up whenever I want to talk about something with you. So we're just going to get started with this read, and each chapter has some really interesting artwork inside, which I think is kind of amazing. And can't read anything. Well, I can read without my glasses. It's just not easy to read without my glasses. So we're going to put those on and off we go. We're off to a heck of a start, okay? So we're being introduced to, I guess it would be our main character, which is Brother Diaz. And so clearly he's a priest. And he is in a carriage trying to head to a meeting with what I think is the Pope, okay? And let's just say, you get a pretty clear picture right from the get-go. He is not what you would consider to be a traditional priest. He uses the words, God damn it, okay, 3 or 4 times in it. He talks about how he, cheated his way through multiple things in the place where he was previously, and now they're stuck trying to get, and he's trying to get to the meeting with the Pope on time. It's not happening because there's some sort of celebration, and he's pissed, and it ends with some sort of jolt to the carriage, and he flies forward, and the seat in front of him hits him in the mouth. I'm like, well, that's one way to shut him up. Anyway, that's the first chapter. Now, this is a really short chapter, so I don't know if all the chapters are going to be exactly the same. I'm kind of hoping, because, short chapters are fabulous, right? But we shall just have to see. Yeah, this one's pretty short too. So it looks like it's going to be a bunch of short chapters. So I'm going to continue reading through and see who else we get introduced to, because the first chapter, it was great. Okay. 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 So, we have met the, what was the thing? The not so great princess or whatever? That was the first part. Hang on. Worst princess ever. And, yeah, we just met her. She goes by the name of Alex, and she's basically a crook. And she's running from these guys that she owes money to. And yeah, and this Duke shows up to save the day. But how he's going to save the day is the question. Okay. So, this is starting off great. Okay. So, I'm just going to keep reading, and I'll check in with you in a little bit. Okay. Okay. So, I am several chapters in now, up to page 34. Enough chapters in that Brother Diaz has been given his new assignment. And let's just say he wasn't ready for the surprise. He thought he was getting this new church and all this sort of fanciness. Meanwhile, they lead him down into this whole dungeon area, and there are all these characters down there, with the last one being a vampire. So I'm, of course, just getting acquainted with all of them. He's got a couple of sidekicks there. Baptiste, who is a woman who is clearly has, seen some action. I don't mean in a sexual way. I mean, she's like covered in, she has knives everywhere. So clearly she's a fighter, scrapper. And then there is Jacob, who is also a knight, I believe. So I'm definitely curious on where this is going to go. Now, what I'm going to try to do is I am going to try to read to page 94, which is where the first part of this ends, and then we lead into the second part of the story. So I'm going to try to go to that point this evening, and hopefully then I'll be able to give you another sort of final update for the night, and then we'll pick up tomorrow night where I left off. Now, this book is 500, just a little over. It's about 550 pages, round about that. And I don't want it to take too long to read, so I'm going to try to get in minimum 150 to 200 pages a day. So we're just going to do the 100 pages tonight, and then hopefully I can take and get the rest done in 2 nights, which is definitely what we're going to try to do. So we'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, so it's actually quite comical, and his reactions are really funny because, like you'll get him talking about how, he's going to show up his brothers and he's going to look really spiffy because he's got this fancy new church that he's going to be heading up. So he is actually quite prideful, and he's a little snotty, and he's actually he's a bit of a trickster, like some of the things that he was pulling at the monastery, he was doing simply to make himself look good. So, he's got a bit of a questionable character. Even like in the carriage when he was being taken to the place to meet with the cardinal, he was basically getting a hard on because of all the prostitutes and everything like you know what I mean. So I would say like he is no perfect priest by any stretch of the imagination, and you get that feeling right from the get-go about him. So I would say he probably fits in really well with these characters that are down in the dungeon of this church. So that's it for this for now, and we're just going to keep on reading and see where we go from here. So just right here, Alex is basically getting a rundown on what is going to happen now that they know that she's the lost princess. Some princess she is. But, so she's got to go to try to win the throne. And she's got 4 nasty male cousins that basically she's got to fight for it. And, she's saying, well, they have their sorcerers and their devils. And the cardinal tells her, yes, but we have devils of our own. So I'm going to end off at that because it is getting very interesting at this point. And I will pop on here again for a quick update when I get to the end of part 1. So last update for the night. I have finished part 1. Okay. And I just wanted to do, kind of a quick update on where we're at in the story. So the whole thing is that they have to get Alex, who is our princess, to her country or province or whatever to take the throne. Okay. And they know that there's these 4 cousins that she has that are going to try to stop this if they know about her, so on and so forth. So anyways, so they have these group of misfits. I think that's the best description for them. And there's, of course, Father Diaz is part of that. and or Brother Diaz, I should say, is part of that. And then there is a group of guards. So there's quite a few of them, and they begin the journey. And unfortunately, they're ambushed almost right away. Now, let's just say it's a pretty brutal fight, okay? And at the end of it, pretty much all of the guards, except for one, I think, is dead. And the Alex's uncle, who is the one who found her in the first place, he's injured pretty badly. So they've decided that he's going to head directly back to the throne, and Alex is going to be taken by the remaining balance of them, and they're going to protect her. So I'm going to read you her protectors, okay? So it says, "We are 7," Brother Diaz waved at his flock. "A vampire, an elf, a werewolf. Can she please dress herself?" Because basically she's naked. And yes, it's a female werewolf. A knight who can't die, a sorcerer, oh, excuse me, magician, a monk who never even wanted to be a bloody monk, and a former assistant barber to a mercenary company. Among other things, she muttered as she fixed 2 broken lengths of spears to either side of Duke Michael's leg. So Duke Michael is the uncle of Alex and has to go back. So basically, you have all of these crazy people, but Alex has decided she's digging in her heels, and she's pissed now, of course, and she's grown a bit of a spine, and she's basically saying that she has decided, with great fervor, she says this, that they're going to take her and guard her and go back. So Duke Michael's going to travel separately, and they're going to travel this way back to the city. Initially, Brother Diaz wants them to go back to the Holy City, but the Duke is worried that somebody there leaked the fact that they had found her, and how they were traveling. So this way he feels that nobody's going to know how they're traveling or where they're going or how they're going to get there or anything like that. So this is where we're at it, and of course they're going to go their separate ways. And so now we're on to part 2, which is the best monsters. Okay, so that's part 2. And the one thing that I did notice, I hadn't noticed it before, but on the front, in the circle, okay, on the front, it says, "The worst monsters make the best allies." And that's basically what they all are. They're all monsters. And they're all, none of them kind of trust each other. None of them are trustworthy. And they're all kind of gray characters, more or less. But love it. I think it's great. And I think that so far I'm really enjoying it. So, yeah, I'm about, what is this, 20% in, good 100 pages. And I will be continuing on tomorrow night. So you're going to get periodic wrap-ups from me tomorrow night as we go through. I'm going to try to hammer down minimum couple 100 pages tomorrow night. So yeah, we'll see if we can get there. And yeah, so we'll be following up then. Okay, I am just up to page 265, and it's been kind of nonstop. So we've been through I can't remember where I left off. I think it was the pilgrimage they were on. And from there, they went to Venice. Now, this is the thing that I find really interesting, is he has built this story on a world that is kind of our historical world. So there's Italy, and there's pieces of Italy like Venice, and there's Troy in the story. So there's all kinds of things along those lines are in the story, which I find really, really interesting. How he's managed to make that work, but still give it a fantastical nature to it. So I really liked that part of it. But so basically, from the pilgrimage, they went to Venice. In Venice, Baptiste had this friend, and he said he would do them a favor and get them passage to Troy on a ship if they went to this illusionist house and got a hold of this box. So they go to this illusionist house. Of course, it's kind of a bit of a shit show. Okay. But what I found interesting about that part was that you got a lot of backstory into these people and how they became what they became. And it's like the traumatic parts of their lives before they became part of this group that works under the Pope. So thought that was interesting. And okay, so they end up on a ship. Now they're on the ship, and their ship gets attacked by one of these cousins of Alex's. And again, they have to fight. But what ends up happening, and what gets really interesting, which is where I'm at right now, is they get separated. So far, there's just two groups. So there's Alex and Sunny, the elf, and Sunny is basically looking out for Alex and kind of saving her. And then the other one is Vega, our werewolf, and the monk, Brother Diaz. So they're an interesting pair, no doubt about that. But it's how their relationships have developed. It's like Sunny and Alex are becoming friends, and Vega and Brother Diaz are becoming close and friends. Like on the ship, Vega, Brother Diaz, kind of encouraged her to turn into the werewolf and fight, but then he was able to stop her, much like Jacob did in the very first fight sequence that happened. So I thought that was interesting, and something's definitely happening there. Relationship. Now, as things stand, we don't know where, well, I shouldn't say that, because Baptiste and the sorcerer, is it Bartholomew? Bartholomew? I can't remember his name off the top of my head, because it's a complicated freaking name. So I just call him the sorcerer magician guy. So they're a pair. So the only one that has not shown up yet is Jacob. But of course, Jacob can't die, so I don't know what's going to happen with him, because he was in a duel with the cousin, did kill him, but of course, he's injured. So, and the ship was going down. It was sinking. They were on a sinking ship. So they all landed in different spots on this land. And of course, at this point, where I'm left off is Sunny has figured out where another cousin and his band are that are trying to follow Alex, because they've gotten Alex's scent, and they actually have a werewolf with them. So things are definitely getting complicated. Where am I at? I'm probably a little more than 50% through the book so far. So I don't think I'm going to read too much more tonight. I'm going to leave it off at probably 265. I might read a tiny bit more. The one thing that I really do like is like the chapters, they're not long. The chapters are pretty short. So, you know, I did kind of want to get to 300 pages in on this tonight, but we'll see. We'll see, but that's it for the update so far. Okay, quick update on the Devils, which I am almost finished. I have just a little over 100 pages, maybe 120. And we've gotten to the point where they've arrived in Troy. They did all kind of find each other. A little insane how that happened, but they did all come together and everybody is still alive. Not necessarily all in one piece, but they are alive and they have gotten Alex to Troy. So now we're wondering, you know, obviously this isn't finished. There is one cousin left. The other three are gone, permanently gone, because they did deal with an attack from the third cousin just before they hit part 4. So this book is in 4 parts, as far as I can tell. I would doubt that there's a 5th part with only that much left in the book, but who knows? Joe Abercrombie. One thing I'm really enjoying is I really like his writing. I love his banter. The thing I'm enjoying the most is the dialogue between them all, how they're all getting to know each other. I like the fact that we're getting points of view from all of them. Even though his books do not indicate whose point of view it's going to be, but it's actually very easy to tell when he starts off a section, because sometimes not a whole chapter will be from the same person, but it's very clear who's talking. So you figure that out very, very fast. And I like there's certain relationships that are developing that are interesting, which would be Alex and Sunny, the elf. They're developing a romantic relationship, and I would say, you know, started off as friends, liking each other, and then attracted to each other. So it's kind of gone that way. And then there's an interesting thing going on between Viga the werewolf and Brother Diaz, which is so bizarre. It's a very bizarre relationship. He does have, like, there are points where, you know, there is sexual parts of, but there's nothing like explicitly on the page. Okay. So, you know, they do talk about, they do swear, they do curse. I remember watching a few reviews where they said that it was like the cursing was there just for the sake of cursing, but I'm not finding that. I'm actually finding that it's almost a defining thing for a certain person, and they'll express something and it's like out of frustration or whatever. And like Brother Diaz, for example, when he curses, it's funny because it's like because he tries really not to. Anyway, it's really good. I'm really enjoying it so far. I don't know that I would say it's a 5-star, but it's definitely at this point 4.5. We shall see how the last few bit goes, and I am going to finish this today, and I'll give you the final roundup as soon as it's done. Okay, final thoughts for the vlog for Joe Abercrombie. Finished it last night. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it, we'll talk about that in a minute. So I was a bit prepared and unprepared because I didn't know what to expect. I've never read one of Joe Abercrombie's books before. I've never actually, I have seen reviews of the book, very mixed reviews, 100%. Some people loved it, some people were in the middle, some people were didn't like it. So I actually think a book like that is the kind of book that is really depends on the person and who's reading it. Now, because I've never read anything from Joe Abercrombie, I had no previous expectations on what was going to be in the book, outside of the fact that I have heard his books are quite entertaining. So I was expecting it to be entertaining. Was not disappointed at all. The entire book, very entertaining. I completely loved the way it ended. Don't want to talk too much about the ending because that would give away too many spoilers, and I already give enough in my vlogs. So I kind of, try to peter that out as we get towards the end, because I don't really want to talk about exactly how it ends. But suffice to say that throughout the entire book, these group of misfits called the Devils are trying to get Alex to Troy to become the Empress there. So, because that's supposed to be her position, that was what she was born into. She was lost as a baby, blah, blah, blah. So there are all kinds of twists and turns. The main thing is that there's these 4 cousins, and they apparently all want control. There's an uncle that comes into play. There is a woman who is kind of like the lady of the manor, or the castle, I should say. They're all that sort of thing. And eventually they do get her there, but it is a hell of a ride getting her there, okay? And then what happens in the end, there's a few twists and turns that I didn't see coming. And it was so good. It was even a little sad at a couple of points throughout the book, especially towards the end. So there's that. But there's one point where, you think about it and you think about who these people are. They have history. The history comes out in it. And, they're all trying to be better, sort of, except Balthazar. I don't know that he's a good person, period. He's a bit of a ass with a lot of ego, but there's a point at the end. I'm just gonna read a little bit because I think it was kind of just something that I thought was really important. Now, things happen, of course, with Brother Diaz, and in the end, they are separated, okay? So I will say that. However, what happens next, right? And it says, there was silence while Diaz considered the facts. I must admit, theology was never my strongest suit. Honestly, more of a numbers man, but perhaps the werewolf and the necromancer and the cursed knight and even the enemy of God are the tools St. Beatrix chose. He's talking about them being the tools that they were given to save them, right? And a saint sent a set of devils to turn a thief into an empress. Well, when you boil it all down, Diaz kept one hand on the vial for a moment, then he let it drop and shrugged. That seems to be about the size of it. So I love the characters. Now, I understand that he's going to write, it's going to be a series, and it kind of leads into that a little bit right at the very end on what's going to happen where that's concerned. You know, I did write a review, and in the review I gave away a tiny little spoiler at the very end, and that is that, like I said, they're all separated. So it I don't know if it would really feel quite the same if all of the same people are not together. And I'll leave it at that. So I settled on 4.5, okay? The reason I dropped it half a point was because there were some parts of it that dragged a little bit. And I wouldn't say that it got repetitive, but it was a little bit kind of a little tough to follow at certain points because the point of views changed a lot. You got everybody's point of view, which I did actually like it, but at a couple of points it just kind of got a little bit confusing. You'd have to, like, you know, pivot a little, and I did do that, but I did like it. I loved the book, loved the story, loved everything about it, and I really liked his writing. Now, like, he takes like current Europe history, and he's talking about Italy mostly, so kind of that Italian, but you know, like Africa is mentioned slightly different, and England's even mentioned at the very end. You know, you get a little bit of that. He's bringing that in, but he's layering it with folklore. So there's elves. There is, like I said, a necromancer. There is a pyromancer that appears. There's all kinds of beasts and things like that. So it is not our normal world, but it is centered around the religion, the Catholic religion, because, you know, there is a pope, but that symbolism is slightly different. The pope is a 10-year-old girl. So these are things that are written into how so he's combined the real world with magic. And he's even built in Troy, which is a Greek tale, right? But he's built in the place of Troy as a real place. So it's kind of interesting that way. And I loved that part of the book. And the other part that I loved about the book was I loved the characters, and their banter was fantastic. So put all that together, and it came out with a really great story. So that's my final word on it. Like I said, 4.5, and that closes out this vlog. I don't know if I'm going to do another one. I might. I'm contemplating doing a vlog for when the wolf comes home, or the merge. Depends which one I like the best. I'm gonna get into it first 100 pages in, and then I'll decide which one that I'm gonna do a vlog for. So that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. And again, I would very much love your feedback. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, because that always helps me keep my channel moving forward all the time, and would greatly appreciate your support and always welcome it. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next video.